What is vibrato and how do you do it? People ask me this question all the time, so today I am going there. Welcome back to Singing Tips with LJD Studios, the space where we take difficult singing concepts and break them down so you can actually understand and implement them for better singing. I'm Laura, and today we are talking about vibrato. Before we go there, as always, you guys make sure you like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and if you haven't already, download my free guide, The Three-Tiered Approach to Becoming a Better Singer, linked in the description. Side note, I got my 3.5-month-old son, Wesley, over here in his bouncy chair. You might hear some shrieking or like rattling around. That's what's going on there. You guys, I'm giving away this information for free. I can't be paying somebody to watch my kid. So if you hear anything going on, that's what that's about. So thanks for being patient with me. And without further ado, what the heck is vibrato and how do you do it? Vibrato is that kind of like shaky sound in your voice. So like, ah, right? Or you might associate it more with a classical sound of ooh, right? The truth of the matter is vibrato is present in all genres and styles of singing, though sometimes we associate it with classical singing because it is constant in classical singing. You typically don't ever hear a stopping of the vibrato at any time in a classical sound, versus in like rock, pop, musical theater, it's more intermittent or sporadic, but it is across all genres, so it's not just a classical thing. Scientifically speaking, what is vibrato? Vibrato has two components, pitch and pulse. So the pitch one's, I think, the trickiest to understand. When we sing, we always have, or should always have, what's called the fundamental frequency. And that's the pitch that you hear. That'd be the one that you would try to match, right? So if I was going to sing a middle C, that's what you're going to hear come through. But when we have vibrato, there are other harmonics present. And so when we have vibrato, we really have two pitches that we're going back and forth between really, really quickly. They do not or should not detract from that fundamental frequency. So if someone's vibrato is so intense that you can't tell what pitch they are singing, then there's a problem. I mean, unless that's what they want, but I doubt that. I doubt they want to be singing in a way that you can't even tell what the pitch is, right? So it shouldn't cause any question about what is the fundamental frequency. In fact, it should bring it out and sort of like highlight it, if nothing else. So there's that component. There's also the pulse component, the ooh, that pulsing component. So those are the two things, acoustically speaking, that make up vibrato. How does this happen? I think first it's important to understand that I would say that there are two big groups of vibrato, sort of a manufactured vibrato and what I would call a natural vibrato. And I'm not doing this, you guys, so that you'll watch till the end of the video. I just think the explanation works best. Stay tuned until the end of the video to find out my best advice for getting a natural vibrato. I just think you need to understand all these other steps first before I can get there. So if you're one of those people that likes to not watch till the end, today might be one of those days that you would benefit from watching to the end. So hang with me. Okay. So you got manufactured vibrato and you got natural vibrato. I think for most of us, a natural vibrato is going to ultimately be the end goal. So what happens in that natural vibrato is it's a relaxation response actually to tension and pressure in the body. So when we sing, air is supplied from the lungs up to the vocal cords. Your vocal cords are doing like this all the time. But whenever they're in this position, for however long that may be, they are holding back air, and that's creating pressure. That's creating some tension. And tension is not always a bad thing. We want some tension in the body and in the sound. We just don't want excess tension, right? So vibrato is this natural response to that buildup of pressure and tension. Just like, let's say you were exercising a muscle and eventually it starts to like shake a little bit. That's kind of what's going on in your larynx. It's responding to that buildup of pressure. It's natural, it's good, it's healthy. I'm not trying to imply that it means you have too much tension. In fact, if you have too much tension, the vibrato won't kick in. Think about, again, if you've got that shake in the muscle and then you kind of lock it, right? It'll stop shaking. So the same thing is true with your voice. The vibrato will stop if you are overly tense. So it really is a response to exactly the right amount of pressure and tension. If you want to get fancy about it, we call it subglottal air pressure. The space between your vocal cords is the glottis. So whenever the vocal cords are closed and they're holding back air, it's underneath the glottis, right? Subglottal air pressure. It's a response to that. It's a relaxation response, and it's a good thing, but it only happens when all the pieces of your breath management and your vocal cord configuration and your resonance are working together symbiotically. And so that's what I'm going to talk about at the very end of the video. But that said, a manufactured vibrato can sometimes get us where we want to go, or at least show us some of the steps to getting there. I think that there could be some benefit from exploring some of these manufactured sounds. So let's talk about some of these manufactured vibrato sounds and how to do them. All right, so if you're like, I don't care, I don't want to play the long game, I don't care about having a natural sound, I just want to get my voice to do that cool little quiver thing. There are some things that you can play around with. The best tip I have, you guys, is just mimic an opera singer. I don't know if you guys ever did this when you were kids, but like the first time I heard someone sing with vibrato, I tried to do it, right? When I was a little kid, I was like, oh, right? And I think, like, you guys don't know me, I don't think, but you could probably tell that that's like not, even though I am an opera singer, that's not my natural singing voice. That's not like a natural vibrato. But there are things occurring in my body that are similar to what might occur with that natural vibrato. So it can kind of help wake up the musculature if you do it that way. So just be silly about it. Like, don't think too hard about it. Just try to mimic an opera singer, and that might eventually help your voice get the idea of like, oh, this is what needs to happen in my larynx. In order for that more natural sounding vibrato to occur. You do it long enough and you go, maybe I can just back off of that exaggerated sound and land at something that's a little more natural sounding, of like, ooh. And by the end, I'm at that more natural vibrato. So that, I think, honestly, is the best and easiest way to kind of wake up the musculature in a similar way to the way it might be functioning for a natural vibrato. The other thing you can try is, you'll probably see some exercises out there of like singing back and forth between two pitches, kind of slowly and then more and more quickly. That's not quite the same way as it occurs in natural vibrato. Like, you're never going with your brain going to be able to go back and forth between those two pitches quickly enough for it to make that really natural organic sound, right? Think about like how fast you can tap your two fingers together. Like, that's not going to be fast. I can't make that happen fast enough. So you're never going to be able to go quickly enough between those two pitches, sort of willing it in your mind. It needs to happen almost outside of your control. But again, it can kind of help your larynx realize like, oh, this is eventually the way in which I might want to move in order to have a more natural sounding vibrato. But that exercise in and of itself is not probably going to land you there, but it can help wake up the muscles a little bit. I'm not going to demonstrate an exercise. There's plenty of those out there. Plus, I actually have some of my own, and I can't be giving everything away, you guys. I got a membership coming out. So in my membership, I've got all my exercises and that. This channel is focused more on like tutorials. But you can also just search for it. You'll find plenty of those exercises. I just think there's an end cap to all of this. I don't think it's harmful, but I do think there's an end cap. The other way you can do it, I actually don't recommend. And it's because I don't think it mimics a natural vibrato in any way. Those first two kind of sort of mimic what happens in a naturally occurring vibrato. This last one doesn't mimic what occurs, so it's not going to be helpful. But if you like the sound, go for it. And you'll see people tell you like, take your belly and like shake it like, like that. That's not how you're going to get a natural sounding vibrato. That's not even anywhere close to what's happening in your abdomen. So I don't think that's particularly beneficial. But if you want to make that super weighty, heavy, shaky sound and you don't care how you do it, then try it. Okay, so that's the last one. Don't recommend it, but I also hate to say that something's wrong. If you find benefit, go for it. All right, so those are the ways to sort of play around with vibrato to just get it to happen instantly. Okay, so now, how do I really think you should approach getting this more like natural, organic vibrato? You guys are not gonna like my answer, but I think you need to play the long game and you need to understand the relationship between your air supply and your vocal cords. And as soon as you understand how to increase and decrease pressure there, and as soon as I should add to that, you also need to kind of understand good resonance. And when you get those things at play, the vibrato will just come, but it ain't gonna come overnight. So, and I know not everybody likes that. They want like fast results, right? So that's why I gave you the other ones. But in truth, I really do think you need to play the long game. Okay, so let's get into that a little bit. I think if you really want to start to understand the relationship between your air supply and your vocal cords, you need to play with some different sounds first. So start by making a really pressed sound of like, and you're going to feel pressure underneath your cords. It might even make you kind of like cough a little bit because it's too much pressure. And I tell you what, with that much pressure, I am not going to get vibrato. There's too much tension. I've locked everything in place, and that relaxation shake that occurs, and it's small, you guys, it's really, really small. It's not like a big shake. It's really tiny. But that can't occur because I've locked everything in place so tightly. But it's worth exploring that, right? So that you can then play with, okay, now I want to let off of that pressure. I want to let off of that tension. On the opposite end of the spectrum, if you are too relaxed, you also won't get vibrato. So play with a breathy sound of I'm not going to get any vibrato in that either because there's not enough tension. But as I play with those two sounds, what I can feel is the difference in pressure and tension in my vocal cords, or really underneath them. I can feel that difference in the subglottal air pressure. Has a lot of subglottal air pressure. You'll feel it. You'll feel all this pressure like underneath your cords. Versus you'll feel that there's no pressure when you do that. I get into this quite a bit also in my video on how to sing without strain, because when we strain, a lot of it is this. It's this relationship between your cords and your air. So I've got that video linked in the description. You can check that out too. It might help you on your path to singing with vibrato. But that's the key. That's the main idea, is to just understand, what is it like to have a lot of subglottal air pressure and what is it like to have like none? And then how can I find the balance between them? So after you've played with those two extremes, start to walk them forward or backwards. So maybe start with a pressed sound and then try to back off of it. Guys, I didn't try to do vibrato. It just happened. It happened because I backed off of the subglottal air pressure. Same thing if I'm trying to do something super breathy, right? Again, it just happens as I add a little bit more pressure and a little bit more tension. All right, that's it, you guys. Thanks for hanging with me until the end. I really do think this is one of those ones where if you play the long game, it is going to pay off huge. Work on your breath support. I hate that term, but I don't know what else to call it, and see all my videos on the breath support. But work on that. Work on twang. I didn't really get into the resonance component of it, but that's it. All the things, all the pieces work together. And so your relationship between your air and your chords is almost like contingent upon this element of twang. So I've got that video linked in the description if you want to explore resonance and twang a little bit more. But when you get these things in balance, I promise you the vibrato will just come. It'll just happen. I've seen this with my students that I've worked with for long periods of time. Like, we try all these other exercises and they kind of get it, but it doesn't feel super controlled, or it's not quite as like natural sounding as it could be. And then all this other stuff comes into place and suddenly they can just sing with vibrato. So the most important thing you can do though is play with that idea of like, how do I increase the subglottal air pressure, or how do I decrease it? And that's going to land you at that balanced place where you can have that free flowing vibrato the way you hear all your favorite singers do it. All right. Good luck, you guys. Happy singing.